Khan. We give all praises and glory and honor to Yahweh Shem Yahushai, who has taught us this truth. We thank Yahweh Shem Yahushai for the elders and apostles of Great Millstone, who have passed on these lessons, this truth, this understanding of the Holy Scriptures through their teachers. And we give the salutations to the men and to the elect of Yasha Allah, Israel, who is pushing his word throughout the four corners of the globe in spirit and truth. As you can see here, I have this book, just got it off the out the library. And it was a book that was on the shelves for resale, and I bought this book for $1. And as you can see, the title says The Renaissance and the Reformation. The Renaissance and the Reformation by Henry S. Lucas. This is the second edition. And Henry Lucas, is a professor, of course, of emeritus of European history at the University of Washington, and Harper and Row, the publishers in New York. Just wanted to bring out some information. Just got the book. I just want to bring out some information real fast on just the couple pages that I already read. And I want to get straight to the point about the Renaissance and Reformation and what is he talking about. This is the introduction, and the question is, what is the Renaissance? Of course, we know Renaissance, re meaning back, naissance meaning birth or nativity, which means rebirth, or mean to be born again, like to be rebirthed, like so, meaning that you was once birthed, now you're being rebirthed, or having a new beginning from the old. Now it says here there are many definitions of the term Renaissance, but not one is really satisfactory. Some definitions exaggerate certain aspects of the Renaissance, but underestimate the import of certain features of it. Now those features, what we understand, is through the church and the reformation of the church, reform. Got it. I have it on the screen. To reform means any proceeding which bring back a better order of things. 1660 means to reform, and in some sense used in the French Réforme as a branch of Judaism from 1843. It says to convert into another and better form, right? To convert into another and better form. To rebuild, reconstruct. Re meaning back, construct means to build. So you're building back. But it says here to convert into another and better form, right? It says meaning to bring a person away from an evil discourse of life is recorded in early 1500s. Governments, institutions related to the Reformed Church, usually of Calvinists, as opposed to Lutherans. And, we could get into that. Brothers understand that the Reformation of the Church. But here we know that the Reformation of the Church began one way. Someone took it over and brought it back some other way. And it came in the church. I'm talking about the people who's supposed to be following Christ. They came up with a whole nother form of worship. And what we understand when we continue reading, it says, the Renaissance, some underestimate the import of the certain features of it. Certain it is, however, that the Renaissance was an era, right, of striking accomplishments in painting, sculpture, architect, music, literature, philosophy, science, and technology. And I like that word striking, because what does strike mean? Strike means to blot out. Strike means to bring down or destruct, not construct or not restruct. And we understand what they struck they struck the truth and turned it into a lie. It says it also was an age of change in the economic foundations of life of our medieval forefathers in the basic structure of European society, because what they did was changed it. They changed what it was and changed it into their own. Just like America. America was built by the Native Americans, who you call Indians, North American Indians, Native Americans, but they're really Israelites. So what they changed the way of life here in America into something else. It says, at the outset of our narrative, we shall content ourselves with stating that the Renaissance was the civilization of Europe, talking about Edomites, to get it down, because Edomites are not Europeans, but they connect themselves to Europe. But Europe was a black Japhetic woman, Europa. So they not the civilization of Europa or the Japhetic people. They're Hebrew Edomites, of the tribe of Esau, the descendants of, and particularly of Italy, during the 3 centuries following the life of Dante, 1265 to 1321, which includes and besides other matters in the account life and thought and achievements of Francisco Patriarch, Lorenzo de Medici, Leonardo da Vinci, Raphael, and Michelangelo. And the brothers already know that what they did, they changed the arts in all of Europe, or at least tried to. And what they did was change, like I said, what it was, which was black icons of dark-skinned pictures of Christ and Moses, Yahushua, God, the angels, and they changed them white. So what they did was they struck down what the images were and reconstructed something else. Here it says culture, and this is what I'm going to focus on, the culture of the Renaissance. Here's the second paragraph. It says, culture is a common way in which men live, think, and act, not passively, but dynamically, creatively. It comprises a common organization to satisfy men's material wants necessitated by his social, political, and other needs. Cultural activity includes a general use of material aspects of man's environment, such as economic resources, geography's surroundings, and the product of technological skill. Culture also includes such all-important matters as philosophy, science, art, literature, and religion, mental and moral activities which, more than forces of material nature, shape the course of civilization, which means this is what Esau did. Esau went around the whole world and grabbed up resources. The resources which include art, religion, all the world religions, the philosophies, the art. He gobbled everything up, the resources of the land, oil, gold, silver, copper, the precious resources of those lands in which he conquered. This is what he did. This is how he gained his culture. And what he did was he stole it, struck the things down, and built back up what he wanted, what was necessary for him to accomplish and continue his conquests. And we know during these dates that we read up above, all the way from the 1200s all the way to Michelangelo 1564, that this is what he did. He set his rulership, or his rebirth, or his Renaissance, or his Reformation into what he wanted to be, different from the old. Here it says culture, whether of the Renaissance, of the Reformation, or of any other period, is uniquely the product of man's creative activity. Culture springs from man's moral nature, from his free will, from the rational character of his being. It does not rise automatically and by necessity out of his material environment of soil, geography, climate, chemical forces, vegetable or animal life, but rather out of his persistently creative capacity more or less independent of the material nature of his existence. Well, his material nature of his existence is rape, rob, and murder, because none of these lands that he's conquered belong to him, but by the sword in which Esau lives. You could read Deuteronomy, Genesis. You read Genesis about Esau. His blessing was the gun, and by his sword he shall live, and the whole fatness of the earth is his. This is why he reap all things unto himself, and then therefore make his culture. This is how he reforms and fashions it the way he would like. So going back, I want to read down here. It says, the roots of civilization lie deep as the ages gone by. Knowing the past, therefore, helps us to grasp more clearly the character of the present. Right? We have to understand the past and what has gone on in the past. That's why we emphasize to our brethren to do research, read books, go to the library, find these things out, because the internet. Google, you can't search every time on Google. You guys should actually go to the books, to the shelves in the library, right? This is how we find out things. It says some of man's most useful achievements date from the remote past, are in fact ageless. Let us here note some of them. Paleolithic man may not have had much culture and equipment, but he was no brute. He possessed skill as a food gatherer, as hunter, as maker of stone, knives, and hatchets, and had the knowledge how to make fire and use it. Neolithic man, building upon the achievements of Paleolithic ancestors, made excellent stone tools. He domesticated plants and animals and raised crops. His descendants in the Bronze and Iron Age discovered copper and iron and used them in making tools. Right? Tools are made for building, not destroying. But what had Esau did? He made tools for weapons to destroy and to conquer. And what here, these gatherers and hunters, we talking about men from Adam, right? Adamites who cultured the land and raised and nurtured and domesticated animals. We know the history of Esau. He has destroyed everything, put animals and people in behind bars. This is what he does. Setting the spiritual character of our civilization was a contribution of the ancient Hebrews, talking about Israel. This tribal and pastoral people of Palestine were poor but virile and developed an ethical monotheism which contrasts with the polytheist cults of the people about them. The Hebrews believed in Jehovah, it says here, but it is Yahweh, infinite in power and majesty, creator and sustainer of all things, and their protector. See, this is from the past. This is how we're supposed to live, talking about Israelites. We know that our power is Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai and our protector. It says the prophet Moses proclaimed his nature and presented to his chosen people at Mount Sinai, talking about the Israelites, the table in which to engrave the 10 Commandments, law, statutes, and commandments, not just 10. The spiritual experience of the Hebrews is recorded in their scriptures, a library of small classical, among which are the 5 books of Moses, several books on history, and of the Hebrew in the Holy Land, the book of Job, a masterpiece of problem of suffering, the utterances of the prophets, and finally the book of Psalms, a collection of 150 psalms, unmatched in devotion literature of any other people. Out of the Jewish Palestine millennium came also the Christian religion. The founder of Christianity was Yahushua, crucified in the year 33, who taught a doctrine of salvation based upon Jewish scriptures and upon his own teaching that he was divine. Now, just to sum it up, going back, we know that these Paleolithic and Neolithic men who cultivated their land and grew and domesticated, this is from the beginning. And they knew that Yahweh was the power of it all. So everything is based on the beginning. So when you have a person coming, Johnny come lately, with a renaissance, He's not rebuilding based upon the old methods. He's basing upon something new. And that's the point I'm trying to come across. It says here, his message told in the four Gospels, the Acts of the Apostles, the Epistles, and the Apocalypse won followers not only among Jews, but among Greeks and Romans. Now, those Greeks and Romans was Israelite foreigners. And we could prove that all day, that the Greeks was Hellenized, the Israelites was Hellenized, who called themselves Greeks and Romans. By the year 500, the Christian community embraced the entire Greco-Roman world. Celts, Germans, Slavs, and other peoples next adopted its teaching about life and eternity, thereby laying the moral and spiritual foundation of medieval life and thought. So basically, this newfound religion called Christianity, based upon the teachings of Christ, or Yahushua HaMashiach, this is the way our people lived, and this is how the whole world lived. This was the culture of that time. So anything other than this would be outside, other than, okay? It says sheer originality characterized the Greeks. To them belong the credits of laying the foundations of metaphysical thought, later so noteworthy a feature of the Middle Ages, the Renaissance and Reformation. Now this is, you talking about, well, let me continue. In philosophy, Plato, Aristotle have always been supreme. The questions raised by Cynics, Epicureans, and Stoics still are instructive, but the Greeks were also practical. For some, in medicine, which was developed by Hippocrates of Kos, what would medieval and Renaissance medicine have been without? Right, this man Claudius. Now, going on, these Epicureans and Stoics, you go back in these Greek philosophers, you'll go back and you find out these were Israelites. But things was changing. Things were changing because people had questions. So since the apostles and the disciples have been killed off, and because of the government, because of the Roman government, when time was passing on, people had questions and there was nowhere to go to. That's why it was important for Paul to go about the churches throughout Europe to bring it back home, so to speak, bring it back to Yahweh Shem Yahushua, to God and Christ from the beginning, and always taught things that were from the beginning. Okay? And we'll go back on and push forward. Salakia. We'll go back and push forward to this chapter here, chapter 3. It says spiritual foundations of late medieval culture, the church, teaching, organization, and triumphs. It says, having explored some aspects of economic foundation, the social structure, and political organization of Europe's societies during the age of Renaissance, we turn next our attention to the high aspects of Renaissance achievement by first noting the part the Christian church had in molding medieval and Renaissance culture. Of course, because this is what they stole. They stole everything from the beginning. They stole everything from the beginning and changed it. Salaki, I'm trying to get my computer unlocked. But I want to go back down to the second paragraph. It says central Christian teachings. It was monumentally momentous event in the history of civilization when the patriarch Moses, drawn by the visual of a sublime monotheism and an austere morality inspired by it, told his people of Israel that Yahweh's name was I am who I am, and announced that he who is, and it says that is Jehovah, but it's supposed to be he who is Yahweh, Yah being he, and Hawa meaning is. So it's he is Yahweh, would lead them. This was to be his name forever, his memorial for all generations, Exodus 3:14-16. Yahweh then was the one eternal and infinite, perfect, and self-sustaining being. On other occasions, Moses spoke to Israel these words: "Hear, O Israel, our Lord, our power is one Lord." Deuteronomy 6:4. Revolutionary words and deeds for a God whose nature is unicity must be something very different from the gods who swarmed the pantheon of Greece and Rome and other ancient peoples as well, because the other nations and peoples had some other gods. They had many gods. They had polytheism, right? They believed in multiple gods. Salaki, I'm trying to get my computer to open up because I wanted to bring out some scriptures, but I'm gonna just say it on the fly because this is what is important. It says the teachings of Mosaic Judaism underwent profound change when Yahushua appeared as a prophet among the startled Hebrews, telling them that before Abraham was, I am. Talking about I'm just continuing. Yahushua moved about Palestine, lived amongst his people, taught them by means of parables and other precepts of deeper significance. Like Moses before him, he preached a lofty ethical religion based upon the Ten Commandments, which in his teachings was to be expressed by a supreme love of Yahweh as Father of all, which naturally expressed itself in love for all Yahweh's creatures, talking about Israel, because remember, Israel was his only chosen people. Yahushua's oral message was set down in the Gospels and proclaimed by his apostles, in whose eyes he was Yahweh's anointed, the Mashiach. They hailed him as the Messiah to save man from the effects of sin, right? Because only Israelite could sin, because they were given the commandments, the laws, and the statutes to govern themselves. And when they broke these laws, it was called a sin. A doctrine of redemption, unique in history, was presented to men, talking about Israelite men, who, weary of vice and existence, would promise nothing, were longing for a nobler way of life. Well, which is not true, because the promise was given to Abraham of eternal life, of a kingdom of Yahweh, a kingdom promised on earth forever, an everlasting kingdom. Now, the Christian church came into existence among men who listened to Yahushua's discourse and had witnessed his passion on Calvary, hard by Jerusalem. The report of his resurrection had electrical effect. The gods of Greece and Rome were myths, but the founder of the Christian faith was a historical figure, meaning it was true, because they knew he was alive. He knew he walked the earth. These other gods, and Apollo and Zeus and Kronos and Poseidon and all them gods, Mercury and Mars, those gods was not true. These was not historical figures, but we knew Yahushua was true because he walked the earth and he died on the cross, and there was many witnesses. It says, institutionalized the gospel's teachings was brought to men, whether rich or poor, free or slave, talking about Israelite men. Christian doctrine revolutionized the ancient world and provided the moral spiritual foundation on which the culture of Middle Ages was to unfold. So how did this change? What happened? Right? Something must have changed, because this is not what the church is teaching today. The church is teaching some other doctrine, something newly come up. Okay? I'm gonna get this last little bit here. Talking about the church. The church militants was also a visible body. It was a spiritual organism of laymen and clergy, the later composed of priests and bishops, who it was taught held authority from the Christ to dispense the benefits of Christ's teaching among the faithful. Christ who had founded the church, was head of this body. He was delegated his authority to the vice regent, as medieval men believed. This was the apostle Simon Peter, who sealed the career with the crown of martyrdom when he was executed on the Vatican Hill in Rome by Emperor Nero about the year 64. To Peter, Christ, the founder, had entrusted what was called the keys. This included the power to bind and loosen. On this teachings and on the practices based upon the repose of the primacy of Peter and of Peter's successors, the Pope and the bishops of Rome, this basic doctrine was an outstanding figure in the Latin Church in the West. For the faithful in the West, the Pope was earthly spiritual head of a vast visible hierarchy. To deny this primacy was thought to be a grave heresy. That's why they give reverence. That's why they give reverence to the Pope today, because what they see is a hierarchy to Peter and to Yahushua was the truth. But what they did was they changed the whole thing. They changed all the teachings, and when you get down to it, is based upon paganism today. So it's not the truth. They change it into something else. So this Renaissance and Reformation can't be the culture that we're supposed to be following today. It's not the culture that we should be following today. The teachings that we should be following goes back to the beginning, to the teachings of Moses, teachings of Noah, teachings of Adam, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. These are the teachings that we should be following. I'm just going to continue reading from this book, The Renaissance and Reformation. As we last left off, we was talking about the early church, how the early church in the Renaissance period, what they have done is they changed what was stated from the beginning, and brought about a new doctrine. And we're going to show you where the new doctrine started during the Reformation, during the early Reformation of the church. But I want to give out this quick precept because what the Reformation and the Renaissance wanted to do was that they wanted to continue their way of living and make it culture, make it what was supreme. And like I last read, that this Pope, when the Pope came about, the Pope word was basically, the truth. And everyone who went against the Pope was considered a heresy. And heresies is at that time and during them years, during the Reformation years, was punishable by death when you go against the church. But the whole point of the Reformation and the culture to bring about change, to rebuild it the way they wanted, is that they wanted their life and their culture to live forever. And this is what the New World Order was all about. This was the first New World Order by the Edomites, by the ones who were not chosen by God. Talking about Esau and the Edomites and the other nations who were with them. That they wanted they culture, their life, and like I said before, was based on economics, and economics meaning resources, people, food, livestock, materials in the earth, silver, gold, copper, platinum, whatever resources that they were using out the earth, oil, even in today's times, that they wanted this culture to last forever. And they wanted all nations to be under this certain rule. But we know that Yahweh Hashem Yahushua has set the rule through Moses, through Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, that the rules are supposed to be one way for one people to govern and to live under that rule. However, the other nations thought of something different. So we got this scripture right here, this Psalms 49 and 11. Psalm 49 and 11, their inward thought is that their houses shall continue forever, and that they dwell in places to all generations. They call their lands after their own names. This is what they have done. Their inward thought is, and through counsel through committee, doing treaties. This is what they wanted. They wanted their houses or their way of thought, their way of life, their culture to continue forever. And they called their lands after their own names, which meant they removed the ancient landmarks so you wouldn't know who's who, where's where. Everything is now changed. So they uprooted what was the truth or what was from the beginning and come up with a new reconstruction or reform or renaissance. They birthed it under their own selves. It says, nevertheless, man being in honor abideth not. He is like the beast that perishes. And that's what's going to happen. They don't understand that the pursuit of the men of the Lord, the pursuit of the Israelites, was going to be to their own death and detriment. This is what Yahushua is coming back. He's coming back to right all the wrongs, to break down all strongholds and all kings and rulers of this earth who rule in wickedness, because the rightful rulers are not in rulership and the laws is not governing the land. Therefore, there's no peace in the land. Verse 13 says, this their way is their folly, yet their posterity approve their sayings. And this is what they do. We talk about how their inward thought is that their houses continue. Well, they continue through their posterity, which is their children. And that's why the scriptures say that we're just going to get it. Isaiah. Because they don't believe that this should happen to them. Isaiah 14:21, it says, prepare slaughter for his children for the iniquity of their fathers. See, their fathers set the foundation, and they continue. He says, prepare slaughter for his children for the iniquity of their fathers, because when you look deeper into that, this is reincarnation. That's why it says their posterity, and the reincarnation come through their posterity, which means their generations after them. And it says that they do not rise, nor possess the land, nor fill the face of the world with cities. Right? For I will rise up against them, saith the Lord of hosts, and cut off from Babylon the name and remnant and son and nephew, saith the Lord. See? So he's coming back, talking about Yahweh Shem Yeshua, who the world ignorant called Jesus, as well as with the angels. He's coming back to right all the wrongs and to destroy the people who passed these things down, passed these lies down, passed these strongholds, and kept the people under slavery. So this is what Yahushua has come back to do. Is coming back to do. He's going to right all the wrongs. So getting back in this book real quick, it says, because our people was persecuted for trying to continue the words of Yahweh Shem Yahushua, talking about the Israelites. They were persecuted in every captivity because they wanted to continue in the ways of the Lord, Yahweh Shem Yahushua, because the will of the Father is the way we're supposed to be governing ourselves. It says here, the Christian church came into existence among men. This is page 50 in the book, The Renaissance and Reformation. It says, the Christian church came into existence among men who had listened to Yahushua's discourse and had witnessed his passion on Calvary, hard by Jerusalem, right? These are talking about the Christian church. We're talking about the early Israelite followers. So we're going to go down to this next point. It says the persecutions, because the church was always prosecuted, the persecutions to which the church was subject during the first 3 centuries of her existence finally came to an end under Emperor Constantine, right, in 337 A.D., who accorded the church legal equity with the old pagan cults. Wait a minute. He's doing something else. He's trying to build some other. He's trying to reform something different than what it was before, who accorded the church equality with the old pagan cults. So this is what the early Renaissance churches was doing. They was taking a playbook by Constantine, bringing back this old paganism, Paganism had nothing to do with Christianity. Talking about all the old gods, we talk about the gods of the pantheon and the Greeks and the Romans, as well as it all goes back to the Babylonians and the Egyptians. About all these gods, Thoth and Isaac, talking about Isis and Nimrod, Semiramis and Tammuz. This is what Constantine wanted to incorporate into the church, and he did. It says, who according to church legal equality with the old pagan coast, but within 2 centuries after the date of Christian faith, had embraced the once pagan population of Greece and Rome. During the next 10 centuries, the church witnessed many many crises in secular culture. It survived the decay and ruin of the Roman Empire in the west of Europe, witnessed the grandeur of the Byzantine Empire, and provided it with the firm Christian inspiration, outlived the feudal age, and acquired much power and prestige, and also struggled with grave problems during the vast social economical changes incident to the rise of towns which had helped transform every aspect of European life. And when you see European life, you're talking about Esau, Edomites. At the opening of the Renaissance, the church was shaped much of the culture of the age. So what it did was took on, and it couldn't stand up any longer against this upcoming beast, this upcoming onslaught of European dominance. This European dominance was taking over Europe, and Europe was predominantly ran by Israelites. At that time in the early Renaissance, they were called Moors because they took on the Islamic teachings, and because of that, they didn't uphold the old teachings. Like we always say, go back to the old ways, follow the old ways, ask your fathers. When they didn't, this is how the white Europeans, Esau, have taken over Europe, and this is what they did. Got this precept. This is why it's so important to go to the precept, because it tells you how you should be and what you need to do to right the wrong. This is Psalm 64. This is a Psalm of David. It says, "Hear my voice, O power, in my prayer. Preserve my life from the fear of the enemy." Because the enemy is coming. The enemy is coming even unto this day. This is, May 8th, 2017. So this is coming even right to this day. It says, "Hide me from the secret counsel of the wicked, and from the insurrection of the workers of iniquity." Esau and the other nations is gunning for Israel. Israel in the next few days, next few months, next few weeks. This is what the secret council is doing. When you see Edomites gathered together, you should be aware. You should understand that what they're doing is trying to continue their culture, which is rape, robbery, and murder, and to keep us Israelites into slavery. This is what they do. So any kind of council, a secret council, or council of this, a meeting and this, and G7 this, G8 this, you gotta understand that their whole plan, their whole secret council is of wickedness against the Israelites, you Israelites, us. It says, "Who whet their tongue like a sword." Whet means to, W-H-E-T means to sharpen. They sharpen their tongue like a sword, and bend their bows to shoot their arrows, even bitter words, that they may shoot in secret at the perfect. The perfect is Israel. Suddenly to do they shoot at them, and fear not, because the world is given into their hands until Yahweh Shem Yahushai come back. So they could do and not fear. That's why they shoot us down in the streets. That's why they bring all this turmoil to our people. They get ready to do social media in, the internet in, your Section 8 and your welfare, all the things that you rely on him. This is why we shouldn't rely on this damn devil. This damn devil is going to bring us down. He's always shooting at us. It says they encourage themselves. together in council in an evil matter. They commune of land snares privily. They say, who shall see them? Because it's like they they don't care about Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. So it's like, who's going to bring us down? Who's going to bring us down to the ground? That's what Obadiah says, right? But it's Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai is going to bring you down. This is a fact, okay? It says, verse 6, they search out iniquities. They accomplish a diligent search because they know everything about you Israelites. They study you with a microscope to the highest times density. They look at you. They know you in and out. They Xerox you. They X-ray you. They know your every thought. They know how you think, what you're going to do when the situation is to come upon you. They know. That's why they search out these iniquities. They accomplish the diligent searches, both the inward thought of every one of them, and their heart is deep. So their mind is always constantly looking at us. This is why they believe that they can prevail, but they forget the power of Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai that's going to stop us, but that's going to stop them. Because what does Job say? That when they're about to fill their belly, they're going to be put in torments, man. They think that their houses is going to continue forever. Their culture is going to thrive. The only reason why they culture and is thriving now is because you damn Israelites uphold their goddamn system, right? It says, verse 7, but Yahweh shall shoot at them with an arrow. Suddenly shall they be wounded, right? They shall make their own tongues to fall upon themselves. All that see them shall flee away. And this is why we read these books. That's why we read these precepts, because it tells you that their own tongue falls upon them. You read the news. You watch these videos of the Edomites. You watch the financial forecast. It says, and all men shall fear, right? And shall declare the works of Yahweh, for they shall wisely consider of his doings. Because this is why we put out these videos. We bring out this information, we find information, we bring it out to our brethren so they can build up their faith in Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. Verse 10, it says, the righteous shall be glad in the Lord Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai, and trust in him, and all the upright in heart shall glory. And this is the day that's coming. We're going to glory in Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. We're going to bring these precepts and all this information out for the people, for the men of the Lord to push and continue to grow in faith and encourage the ones who just now hearing about it. Because these lessons is for others to teach. It's for the ones who's watched these lessons to teach others so that they may know. With that, I just wanted to bring this information out. There's going to be more lessons from this book as I, get into it and I read it. Like I said, I just got this book, and it's a beautiful book to show the way they think and the way they thought at that time. Talking about the Renaissance, talking about the Reformation, and it gets into the church, the financial aspects, and all types of thought and ideas of how they was going to conquer the world. This is their thought forever until Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai brings it all to a naught. And with that, I'd like to praise all glory and all honor to Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai, call Allah Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. Double honors to the elders and apostles who taught us this truth, who taught us these lessons and continue teaching us in sincerity and in truth. To the Akim, Shalom always. To the brethren that's pushing this word and teaching this word through faith and diligence. This is Shema Moth again from the DC camp. Shalom, shalom.